It was a drizzling morning in Dublin's south side when officers from the Criminal Assets Bureau, CAB, quietly surrounded a modest, detached house in Knocklyon. To passers-by, the home might have looked like any other: 2 cars in the driveway, a trampoline in the back garden, and kids' toys visible through the front window. But inside lived a man whose name had been whispered for years in Ireland's underworld circles: Anthony O'Sullivan, a 43-year-old logistics consultant with no criminal record, but with an empire built on shadows. CAB had been building a case for nearly 3 years, meticulously tracing cash flows, property deals, and shell companies that led back to O'Sullivan. Now, they were prepared to move in. What they uncovered would not only connect O'Sullivan to illicit earnings estimated at over €12 million, but would also pull back the curtain on his deep ties to the Kinahan cartel, and a cadre of violent enforcers known throughout Europe for their ruthlessness. Anthony O'Sullivan wasn't born into crime. Raised in Kilkenny, the son of a secondary school teacher and a publican, he seemed destined for an ordinary life. But after a brief stint in college studying business management, O'Sullivan moved to Spain in his early 20s and began working in international freight forwarding. It was there, investigators believe, he first encountered figures linked to the Kinahan network. A former associate, speaking under strict anonymity, described O'Sullivan as smart, clean-cut, and quiet, the type you'd never suspect. But behind the professional facade, he was allegedly building a side operation, using his access to shipping manifests and customs loopholes to move small quantities of narcotics, mostly hashish and ecstasy, from Spain into Ireland and the UK. By 2010, he had expanded into more lucrative territory: cocaine shipments smuggled in through Rotterdam and Antwerp. CAB sources describe O'Sullivan as a trusted non-member of the Kinahan organization. He was never photographed with Christy Kinahan or his sons, nor did his name appear on the radar in the infamous feud between the Kinahans and the Hutch gang. But intelligence documents and international law enforcement reports now show that O'Sullivan had been facilitating drug movements worth tens of millions, using an intricate network of shell companies and third-party brokers. More alarmingly, O'Sullivan had close ties to several Kinahan enforcers, including Brian the Butcher Keogh and Sean McDonough, both of whom have been implicated in a string of violent incidents across Ireland, the UK, and mainland Europe. One encrypted message, intercepted by Europol in 2023, referred to Tony sorting the gear and Butcher handling the cleanup. Another confidential informant told CAB that O'Sullivan had once been present at a warehouse in Belgium where 2 rival traffickers were beaten nearly to death for shortchanging the cartel. He didn't lift a finger, the source claimed, but he didn't flinch either. That's how you knew he was part of it. While O'Sullivan maintained a modest personal lifestyle, CAB investigators tracked a series of investments that raised red flags. These included a luxury villa in Marbella held under a cousin's name, a Dublin city centre cafe that rarely opened but paid rent on time, and several properties in Bulgaria and Cyprus linked to off-the-books cash transfers. According to financial records reviewed during the recent seizure, O'Sullivan had funneled over €6 million through cryptocurrency wallets, many of which were mixed using privacy tools to obscure origin. One of the key wallets was traced back to a darknet marketplace specializing in chemical precursors for synthetic drugs. In late 2024, O'Sullivan allegedly brokered a deal worth €3.8 million for a 400 kilograms cocaine shipment originating from Brazil. That shipment was intercepted by authorities in Portugal, where 2 Irish nationals were arrested. Their phones reportedly contained voice notes from an Anthony, discussing ensuring the boxes are secure and heat-proof. The operation against O'Sullivan, codenamed Operation Sleet, culminated in the April 2025 raid, in which over €1.4 million in cash, 5 high-end vehicles, and reams of documentation were seized. CAB also froze accounts in Luxembourg and the Isle of Man connected to shell entities registered under the names of distant relatives and former business partners. Although O'Sullivan has not yet been charged with a criminal offense, CAB has filed proceedings under the Proceeds of Crime Act, and a full hearing is scheduled for July. Legal analysts expect a drawn-out battle. His legal team has so far insisted that all assets were acquired through legitimate business operations. Experts say the case of Anthony O'Sullivan highlights the evolution of Ireland's drug trade. The Kinahan cartel has shifted from street-level violence to a multinational corporate model, says criminologist Dr. Fiona Walsh. Men like O'Sullivan are the new face, professional, invisible, and deadly efficient. If CAB's allegations hold, O'Sullivan may go down as one of the most quietly influential figures in Irish organised crime. He never fired a shot or made the headlines, until now. For those who know the streets, however, the message is clear: the ghost of the cartel is still very much alive. And Anthony O'Sullivan may have been one of its most valuable phantoms. Chief Bureau Officer Michael Gubbins said it was his belief that it would not be possible for an individual to be involved in the drugs trade in the manner and to the extent demonstrated by the intelligence unless that individual had a significant track record in that trade over a number of years. Learn more. A member of the Garda National Drugs and Organized Crime Unit said he believed O'Sullivan was a member of a criminal gang involved in cash-in-transit robberies and tiger kidnappings. These included 6 raids in 2008, in one of which the family of a security company director was held overnight by a gang of armed masked men in their Co-Kildare home. The following morning €800,000 was handed over to the raiders and the man's wife and daughter were later found in Co-Wicklow. The same gang were also the suspects behind the €93,000 robbery of a security van in Lucan, South Dublin, in March 2008 when 2 shots were fired. There was another attempted tiger kidnapping in October that year when a security company employee was held overnight, but the robbery failed. A bookmaker was then targeted in Westmeath the following month, in which €6,000 in cash and €10,000 jewellery taken while his family were held at gunpoint. 1 month later, another raid linked to the gang saw a house in North Dublin broken into and a sawn-off shotgun pointed at a man as they demanded the keys to a high-powered Audi RS4 worth €125,000 parked outside. O'Sullivan is described in evidence as being a central member of the M50 gang which operated in the 1990s, and in 2002 was arrested over the robbery of €500,000 worth of vodka from a warehouse. Another officer said O'Sullivan is an associate of known criminals over the last 10 years involved in the wholesale of drugs. The named associates included Wayne Whalen, murdered in 2019, and Christopher Zambra, who was also murdered in 2014. Another dead associate named in court was Paul Kavanagh, shot dead in 2015, who was in a car with O'Sullivan when stopped in 2010. In his evidence, O'Sullivan said that he had been the victim of harassment by Gardaí as a young man and had made complaints to the Garda Complaints Board. He said does not accept any Garda intelligence exists that implicates him in the manner alleged. In the event that any intelligence might exist, I say that it is not at all reliable as it is simply untrue. O'Sullivan, who has 44 convictions almost entirely for road traffic offences, said that he was never arrested, questioned, charged, nor convicted over robberies or drug dealing. He said he believed officers were instructed to give evidence in a way that imposes maximum prejudice on him. Subscribe to our YouTube video for more crime videos.